What if the thing controlling your next move wasn't you at all? Welcome back to Bioverse Explained. Today we're stepping into one of the strangest corners of biology. Real organisms that hijack other creatures' bodies and pilot them like puppets. By the end of this video, you'll know how a fungus turns ants into suicidal zombies, how a parasite may be quietly rewiring human behavior right now, and what scientists are learning from all of this that could reshape medicine. Let's start in the rainforests of Thailand and Brazil. Thick, humid, dripping with sound. Down on the forest floor lives a fungus called Ophiocordyceps unilateralis. It looks almost peaceful, a thin orange stalk rising from dead leaf litter. But that stalk is growing out of an ant's skull. This fungus infects carpenter ants that forage on the forest floor. A single spore lands on an ant's exoskeleton and begins to bore inward using enzymes, not force. Within days, chemical signals from the fungus start altering the ant's behavior completely. Here's a fact people get wrong constantly. Many assume the fungus eats the ant's brain directly, controlling it like a computer. Researchers using 3D microscopy found the fungus barely touches brain tissue at all. Instead, it wraps around the muscles controlling the ant's jaw and limbs from the outside, hijacking movement itself. That's more unsettling than the myth, because it means the ant's mind might still be in there, trapped, while its body is driven like a car with someone else's hands on the wheel. Now watch what happens next, because this is where it gets genuinely hard to believe. The infected ant leaves its colony and climbs, driven by a compulsion it cannot resist. It doesn't stop at any height. It climbs until it reaches a very specific zone, roughly 25 centimeters above the ground, where temperature and humidity are exactly right for fungal growth. Scientists call this the graveyard zone, because researchers have found dozens of ant corpses clustered at that same height on the same plants, repeatedly, across different infections. At solar noon, the ant clamps its jaws into a leaf vein in what scientists call the death grip, locking its body in place permanently, even after muscles begin to fail. A study published in 2011 by biologist David Hughes and colleagues confirmed this behavior is so precise it functions like a biological GPS system written entirely by a fungus. Days later, a stalk erupts from the ant's head and rains infectious spores onto the very trail its healthy nestmates use every single day. This isn't destruction for destruction's sake. It's precision engineering with a body that isn't the engineer's own. But fungi aren't the only masterminds here, and this next one might hit closer to home than you'd like. Toxoplasma gondii is a single-celled parasite that can only sexually reproduce inside the gut of a cat. The problem is, it often ends up inside rodents first. And rodents are supposed to fear cats above almost everything else. Infected rats show something bizarre. Their instinctive fear of cat urine doesn't just weaken. It can flip into curiosity, sometimes even attraction. Neuroscientists studying infected rodent brains found the parasite forms cysts directly inside the amygdala, the brain region responsible for processing fear. The rat essentially walks toward the exact thing that will get it eaten, delivering the parasite straight back into a cat's digestive system to complete its life cycle. Here's the fact that should genuinely disturb you. Toxoplasma infects an estimated 1/3 of the entire human population worldwide, according to World Health Organization estimates. Researchers, including Czech scientist Jaroslav Flager, have published studies linking human Toxoplasma infection to subtle changes in reaction time, risk-taking behavior, and even personality traits. Nobody is claiming humans become zombies. But the idea that a microscopic organism might be nudging human personality on a population-wide scale is one of the most quietly unsettling ideas in modern parasitology. There's a third player worth mentioning before we go further, and it might be the most brutally efficient of them all. The Emerald Cockroach Wasp doesn't infect its host with chemicals released slowly over days. It performs neurosurgery in real time. Female wasps sting a cockroach twice, once to briefly paralyze its front legs, and a second time, with pinpoint accuracy directly into a cluster of neurons in its brain. That second sting delivers venom that doesn't paralyze the roach at all. It removes its will to escape. Studies using electrophysiology recordings found the venom blocks a neurotransmitter called octopamine, essentially switching off the roach's motivation to flee. The cockroach can walk, run, and defend itself if grabbed. Yet it will passively follow the wasp by its antenna like a dog on a leash, straight into a burial chamber, where a wasp larva will eventually hatch inside it and eat it alive from within, saving vital organs for last to keep the roach alive as long as possible. Here's the single fact from this video you'll want to tell someone today. In 2021, researchers studying zombie ant fungi discovered that different Ophiocordyceps species have evolved independently on different continents to hijack the exact same muscle control mechanism in ants, without sharing a common ancestor that did this. That means manipulation this specific, this surgical, evolved from scratch multiple separate times because it works so well. Scientists studying these systems are now looking at parasite-derived compounds for entirely new classes of neuroactive drugs, since these organisms have already solved problems like precision targeting specific neurons that human medicine is still struggling with. Some biochemists are studying wasp venom peptides for potential pain management research, because whatever silences a cockroach's fear response might one day help silence human pain signals safely. Now here's the idea that should really stay with you after this video ends. All three of these organisms don't override free will with brute force. They exploit systems that were already there. The ant's climbing instinct already existed. The rat's curiosity circuits already existed. The cockroach's motivation pathway already existed. These parasites didn't invent new behavior. They found the exact wiring already built into a nervous system and simply rerouted it toward their own survival. That means control, real control, doesn't require taking over an entire mind. It only requires finding the one lever that was already connected to everything else. And if a single-celled organism with no brain of its own can locate that lever inside a rat, inside an ant, inside a cockroach, the far more uncomfortable question is what else, in nature, has quietly found a lever inside us, and whether we'd even notice if it had. So today we walk through a fungus that pilots ants to their death from the outside, a parasite that may be reshaping fear itself inside a third of the human species, and a wasp that performs precision brain surgery in under a second. All three prove the same unsettling truth. Control in nature is rarely about force, it's about finding the right switch. Here's a question worth sitting with in the comments. If a parasite could subtly shift human personality without anyone noticing, would we even be able to tell the difference between who we are and what's living inside us? If this pulled you in, hit like and subscribe. It genuinely helps this channel keep making videos like this. Somewhere out there is an organism even stranger than everything you just watched, and next week, we're going looking for it.